chocolate.
Yeah, this one so far tastes the most like our control group. It's like you went on the show, nailed it, and asked you to make a chocolate chip cookie, and no one knew how to make a chocolate chip cookie. This is it.
Yeah, I think that's right. That we're like sort of the flavor is right and sort of the look is right, but really it's not.
Yeah, if you squint at it, it's passable.
For a good like
Okay.
5
Next up,
minutes.
HT. The HT cookie cracker.
Oh, look at that snap. Oh,
Huh?
I'll take a seat next to how much
oh, it's just sugar.
It's just cooked sugar. There's nothing of substance here.
And again, think about this. Sugar is soluble in water. So when we think about the ones that really dissolve, where it's impossible for us to fish out the bits of cookie dough from the warm ice cream, it makes complete sense.
It's really interesting. And this is, I think, the most exciting part of this experiment, right? Each one is different in its own way. Like, no two of these has tasted the same or have the same problem. It seems like everyone's trying to figure out a way to get safe cookie dough into their ice cream in an effective, cost-effective way, but they're doing it with different methods. It's very interesting, actually, which brings us to what looks to be the most cookie-like of all of them, which is Ben and Jerry's. Huh. Huh.
It's definitely a crispy edge problem. It's definitely harder to chew than the control.
Yeah. All of these are gummier than the control cookie.
Are you using aquafaba?
Aquafaba.
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 I'm using aquafaba.
I'm using aquafaba. What is any clue what we're talking about? What is aquafaba? I don't have a clue what we're talking about. I don't know what aquafaba is. We're in the middle of watching Great British Baking Show. Anyway, I will say this is the best cookie of all of the cookie dough ice creams that we tested. But again, still slightly different.
So, for those of you keeping track at home, Ben & Jerry's swept today's categories. Their ice cream had the highest cookie dough percentage by volume. Their cookie dough resulted in the best looking and best tasting cookie. Though I gotta say, being the best tasting ice cream derived cookie is not all that much of an accomplishment. I definitely would not sit down and eat any of these cookies today by choice. Aside, of course, from the control group, that one was darn delicious.
The takeaway here is that if you really do care about cookie dough purity and accuracy in your ice cream, don't, because you're not going to get it from any sort of ice cream. But if you do, the closest thing you're going to get is Ben and Jerry's.
Texture even without egg, but
Dissolved, where it was impossible for us to fish out the bits of cookie dough from the warm ice cream. It makes complete sense.
It's really interesting. And this is, I think, the most exciting part of this experiment, right? Each one is different in its own way. Like, no two of these has tasted the same or have the same problem. It seems like everyone's trying to figure out a way to get safe cookie dough into their ice cream in an effective, cost-effective way, but they're doing it with different methods. It's very interesting, actually, which brings us to what looks to be the most cookie-like of all of them, which is Ben and Jerry's.
Fingers crossed.
Huh. Huh.
It definitely has the crispy edge problem. It's definitely harder to chew than the control.
Yeah. All of these are gummier than the control cookie.
Are you using aquafaba?
Aquafaba.
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 I'm using aquafaba.
I'm using aquafaba. That's any clue what we're talking about. What is aquafaba? I don't have a clue what we're talking about. I don't know what aquafaba is. We're in the middle of watching Great British Baking Show. Anyway, I will say this is the best cookie of all of the cookie dough ice creams that we tested. But again, still slightly different.
So, for those of you keeping track at home, Ben & Jerry's swept today's categories. Their ice cream had the highest cookie dough percentage by volume. Their cookie dough resulted in the best looking and best tasting cookie. Though I gotta say, being the best tasting ice cream derived cookie is not all that much of an accomplishment. I definitely would not sit down and eat any of these cookies today by choice. Aside, of course, from the control group, that one was darn delicious.
The takeaway here is that if you really do care about cookie dough purity and accuracy in your ice cream, don't, because you're not going to get it from any sort of ice cream. But if you do, the closest thing you're going to get is Ben and Jerry's. Everything else is a cookie dough substitute or look-alike. You get some vanilla ice cream and mix the dough together.
Go visit the Toll House.
You should have done that.
What?
That would be great.
Oh, get ice cream and mix it together.
Yeah. Just make your own. Why not? Oh. But hey, that's just a theory. A food theory. Bon appetit. Oh, you didn't want to play that one. Wanted to grab the control. Or the
Thanks for watching, theorists. If you're still screaming for more ice cream, definitely check out our episode on McFlurries. We made fast food desserts into cakes. Why? Because TikTok said we could. And also, apparently, because turning frozen treats into baked goods is our thing now. It's good to try new hobbies. Speaking of things to try, why not try hitting that subscribe button? See if that's a hobby that suits you. Not a lot of people who watch this channel are subscribed, so if you're looking for quality,
Oh, but you want me to have more chicken good
theories
though?
coming straight to your mouth holes, well, that's a subscription that's gonna pay.
Okay. I think I appreciate you being accountable. All right, Ty, give me an hour. We leave an hour to Ty. Yeah. Huh?
I still skipped through the intro, dude.
First, there was one marvelous. Then, there's one excellent scene. Now, it's time we do something a little different. In honor of 2021's James Gunn's The Suicide Squad, I've assembled
Take a
the
look
worst of the
around.
worst. By worst, I mean worst at being bad, because these guys are great. But the worst of the worst YouTubers. Giving them all an assignment. Make a video about a bad guy who you find interesting. Maybe you love him, maybe you hate him, maybe you love to hate him. Whatever it is, this is one villainous scene. So here's the deal. Each of us has written and produced a video essay about a scene with a villain from a movie or TV show or game or book or song or whatever that demonstrates how awesome a certain villain is. Is it because they're so powerful? Is it because of what they tell us about the hero? Is it because they're kind of right? And I have assembled all of those videos into a neat and tidy playlist so you can watch them all. The playlist is in the video description and also will be linked at the end of the video. And as other channels, which could be you, make their own videos, I'll put those in the playlist. So join me, won't you, for my video, where we travel back, way back to the year 2018 for my selection. I want to examine a scene from one of my favorite movies, Speed Avengers Infinity War. There is so much going on in this movie that I think it is easy to overlook some of the clever flourishes the opening scene managed to accomplish. Because man, that opening goes hard. And even though he's been hyped up since way back in that year that the world ended, it is the first time we've actually seen Thanos do anything. So it needed to be big. Thanos needed to give us an idea of three things: why he was dangerous, why he's ultimately going to win or lose, and what he really wants.
Thank you.
And even though there are so many memorable moments in this scene, I'm going to focus on a single interaction between Thanos and Loki, and talk about it in the context of three specific decisions. Thanos has decimated Xandar, killed half the Asgardians, including Heimdall, and beaten the Hulk. Thanos picks up the Tesseract in his hands and crushes it. I find this choice bold.
You made
Marcus and McFeely could have made Thanos do any number of things to get the stone out of the cosmic cube.
Huh?
And unlock it,
about having those sunflower
pull it
chicken
out,
nuggets until you did that.
Thanos destroys it. and dust. Then Thanos chokes Loki with one hand. So the first scene in the movie, Thanos destroys the plot device that drove all of Phase 1 and executes the villain who caused the formation of the Avengers without breaking a sweat. Thanos is raising the stakes significantly. You know how they almost all died fighting Loki? Yeah, you remember how the Red Skull picked up the Tesseract and it transported him into space? Yeah, well, this guy doesn't care. Even the rules set up in Guardians 1 that you need to be an incredibly powerful being to hold an Infinity Stone, Thanos doesn't flinch. Having a villain demonstrate that they are not only powerful, but so powerful that they shatter the hero's entire foundation for how this world works,
Great.
is an excellent way to introduce him. But second, Thanos is not just
That's
dangerous
it. That's it. That's
to
it.
beat up the Hulk or crush an Infinity Stone.
That's it.
Thanos has confidence and imagination that he demonstrates when he kills Loki. One thing that always bugged me about Infinity War is that when the movie starts, the Avengers have 2 Infinity Stones already in their possession. The Time Stone with Doctor Strange and the Mind Stone with Vision. Strange is able to use the time zone to see the futures and guarantee our heroes win. So that's pretty good. But no one on the Avengers has any curiosity about how the Mind Stone might be an effective weapon against Thanos. It's the Mind Stone. Can it be used to control minds? If so, good stone. Or even mind crush guys like Yu-Gi-Oh! The best thing? Also a helpful power. But our characters never try that. The Mind Stone is always viewed as a liability. In contrast, Thanos always uses the stone he just got to collect his next stone. It would be less fun to watch if Thanos only used the Power Stone for the entire movie. And he totally could have. It's one of the most useful stones, and it's purple, like him. So that's good brand management, Thanos. And yet, when Loki's about to stab Thanos, instead of obliterating him with the Power Stone, Thanos catches the blade with the Space Stone that he just got a second ago. And he's trusting his life in it. This goes wrong, boom, cutthroat, game over, thanks Loki. But Thanos wants to choke Loki for revenge. Since Loki lost 2 Infinity Stones, I guess, like not to nitpick, not unlike my podcast, mostly nitpicking, know about the Mind Stone? Because it seems kind of weird that in Avengers 1, Thanos leased an Infinity Stone out to the god mostly known for failing and lying. But anyway, Thanos uses the Space Stone instead of the Power Stone. Choices like that reveal a lot about our character. Thanos wants our heroes to suffer. So he uses the newest stones he hasn't really tested out yet, to cause suffering. Hey Thanos, want to capture Gamora, beat up everybody else? Easy. Use the Reality Stone, boxes, ribbons, but Thanos goes out of his way to trick Gamora into thinking he's dead, to make her suffer through his death, because he suffered. He wants to thrust his suffering upon everyone else. Thanos lets Wanda kill Vision before he rewinds time. He could easily use the Reality Stone or the Space Stone to get closer to Vision or drop a moon on Wanda, but Thanos wants Wanda to suffer, so she understands. Thanos is willing to take risks and use stones he just got so that he can force another character to suffer, because that's what Thanos really wants. And then last thing, Loki's line. Thanos is choking Loki to death. Loki manages to cough up one last insult. You will never be a god. This really hits Thanos. He tries to pretend it doesn't, but it does. Because for all of Thanos' posturing and self-righteousness, Thanos is just like any other villain. Sure, he wants to save the universe from annihilation, but that isn't what he's doing. Thanos is forcing the universe to suffer alongside him. Around the time Infinity War released, people love to ask, well, why didn't Thanos just double all the resources? And I think that question misses the point. Thanos just wants to be right. He wants to be praised for it. Right? Thanos predicted doom. And he was correct in his prediction. And because of that, Thanos believes he deserves respect. He's the ultimate I told you so. In his conversation with Strange, Thanos says that the universe will be grateful. He repeats that line, grateful universe, to the Avengers in Endgame. Thanos does not want to save the universe. He wants credit. Credit for being right all those years ago. And if saving the universe will prove that, then that's how he's going to do it. Thanos is willing to sacrifice everything. So many lives, destroy so many planets for gratitude. He wants to be praised, worshipped, like a god. And Loki is the only other living character who knows what that's like. Loki tried, more than a couple of times, to be a god, to save Asgard, to rule Earth. And it's all because he really just wanted credit from his father for destroying Jotunheim, wanted credit from the universe for conquering Earth. Thanos and Loki both didn't get the respect they believed they deserved. Loki was passed over for Thor, and Thanos was ignored on Titan. And Loki recognizes this in Thanos. He can see the insecurity. So Loki uses his last breath to tell Thanos that it will never be enough. Erasing half of the universe from existence won't fill the hole that was left when Thanos was ignored. Attention must be paid. One of the most iconic lines in American theater. Linda Lohman, Willie's wife, is at the end of her rope, and she tells her son that his father deserves something. Maybe respect or just recognition, but that lack, that emptiness where there once was purpose, is causing Willie to become increasingly delusional and self-destructive. Even though Thanos has all of this power, both in the form of his physical stature, but also his will, he is still suffering from that time of Thanos' power, when he wanted attention, when Titan died. And maybe it wasn't ignored, he was given attention. Catastrophes could have been avoided. Now, Thanos seeks out power. He can save the universe and will finally take notice. It won't have a choice but to pay attention. And in that moment, when Thanos is choking Loki, he turns to Thor. Two, in what Thanos believes will be Thor's last moments, make Thor feel powerless. Force him to watch his brother struggle and die, powerless, like Thanos felt, because nothing could be worse. And that's the Gambit. Three things. Number one, go check out all the other videos in the playlist. Like we said, the playlist is linked at the end of the...
Female villains are excellent. When I was asked to do this one villainous scene, there were so many amazing lines and scenes from female villains that I thought would be excellent to discuss.
I shall destroy
Test of
your
the psyche valve. Look like you're really getting off on the power and...
Oh, how I've missed you. Do you know how boring Tartarus can be? Same old torture every day, every day.
Now play it cool.
But when I
Doing your
truly
usual
searched
day-to-day
my
delivery
spirit, I
job.
knew that there was
There's a
only
power
one
times.
female villain who I truly wanted to explore.
Face me, human, if you dare.
This gonna check your VI number? Ship delivery.
Gargoyles is the Walt Disney animated television series created by Greg Wiseman and Frank Parr that ran from 1994 to 1997. It told the story of a clan of gargoyles, creatures that are stone by day, warriors by night, who in the 10th century were betrayed by their human allies and suffered near genocide. Those who survived were put under a spell that would keep them in their stone-like state until their castle, Castle Webred, was raised above the clouds. In the 1990s, New York billionaire genius named David Xanatos raises the castle above his New York City skyscraper, breaking the curse, and the gargoyles are brought back to life, led by Goliath and aided by NYPD detective Elisa Maza as they adjusted into the new world. And it's alright, even though we're still ACAB, Elisa is like, you know, grade A, indigenous, black rep, so we stand her even though we think she's part of the system. The series was noted and lauded for its dark tone, its Shakespearean homages, complex characters, storylines, and Star Trek voice cast. I mean, like, all of the greats. While sporting many villains, antagonists throughout the series, the most compelling, without a doubt, in my opinion, is Demona.
I have a name too, Goliath. The humans gave it to me long ago. You should know it before you die. I am Demona.
Demona is the former mate to Goliath, the leader of the New York Gargoyles clan. Demona, back in the 10th century, grew to hate humanity for their discrimination and bigotry towards her kind. She eventually teamed up with the captain of the guards, who was an ally to them, in order to give information to the Vikings and allow them to take over the castle. However, the issue was that Demona was supposed to convince Goliath and the other gargoyles to get away from the castle. Demona failed to do so because Goliath was loyal to the humans for some reason, and therefore she didn't hold up her part of the bargain, and the clan ends up getting slaughtered during the daylight by the Vikings. When Goliath returns the next day along with Hudson, he was devastated to see the murder of his almost entire clan, which included who he believed to be his mate, Demona. In reality, Demona did manage to escape and kill, with the intent of returning to Goliath once things had calmed down. However, she returns to find the 6 survivors, including Goliath, under the sleep curse as stone. This breaks her heart and begins the downward spiral in Demona's life of loneliness and pain and revenge.
At night? How can this be? Oh, my love. What have they done to you?
In the 4-parter City of Stone, our heroes have to get a code from Demona in order to undo her turning all of humanity into stone and her murdering many people. And throughout this 4-parter, we get insight into Demona's life as we go into her backstory and realize what has brought her up to this point. Throughout this 4-parter, we see Demona's backstory leading up to the events of the show, and we get a lot of insight into her emotional state of mind. And while being confronted by Goliath and the Weird Sisters, she reveals something very visceral about herself, her motivations, and what she feels about the consequences of her actions.
You must give them the code.
I will have vengeance for the betrayal of my clan. Vengeance for my pain.
But who betrayed your clan? And who caused this pain?
The Vikings destroyed my clan.
Who betrayed the castle to the Vikings?
The hunter hunted us down.
Who created the hunter?
Canmore destroyed the last of us.
Who betrayed Macbeth and Canmore?
Your thirst for vengeance has only created more sorrow. End the cycle, Demona. Give us the code.
The access code is alone.
The access code is alone is one of the most excellent scenes in Gargoyles because it brings a lot of humanity to Demona, and it is informed by what we have seen her go through, and it is the kind of empathy that allows us as the audience to know that while Demona is absolutely wrong for her actions, to understand why she makes these choices. And also that Demona herself knows deep down that she is responsible in many ways for the harm she has caused to herself. But her inability to properly deal with this has sent her down a path of murder, revenge, and isolation from the very people she wants to protect and love. This is the fatal flaw that makes her a villain. And I think it is worth discussing how her villainy is constructed because it is very much emblematic of the 90s and early 2000s way of dealing with racism through these fantastical racism tropes. Due to the trauma of losing everyone she's ever loved, Demona is paranoid and afraid of not being able to protect her kind. This leads her to make rash, anxious decisions as highlighted in her chaotic relationship to Macbeth, which we see in the City of Stone quartet? And yes, it is that Macbeth from Shakespeare. Through flashbacks, we see that Demona meets a young Macbeth and works with him to defeat Duncan to become king, a la just like in the Shakespearean story. They are bound together through a spell by the Weird Sisters, which gives Demona back her youth and makes her, and they end up being allies with each other to the point where Macbeth is the one who actually gives Demona her name. Since gargoyles don't really have names, but she was called the Angel of the Night by Goliath for some time. But now she's Demona because symbolism.
In the cargo elevator and use your key card.
I would rather they feared me.
They'll do that too. Demona.
Demona. I like the sound of that.
I hereby
I need you to stay calm. They've seen what you did to the vault, and now the whole place is locking down fast. They know you're still in the building. Just keep moving and keep
And
quiet.
Demona and Macbeth have a really good relationship, but unfortunately, because of her faith with humans, Demona's trust is very fragile. And when she hears Macbeth consider betraying her to win support from the English, who are still discriminating against gargoyles, she is afraid that this is going to come to pass, and she ends up betraying Macbeth to Duncan's son Claymore and the English armies. Claymore, however, then betrays her and kills the rest of her clan, leaving her alone again and becoming the last living gargoyle in Scotland. And eventually she decides to leave and is deeply, deeply damaged by the situation and will not trust or align herself with another human for 1,000 years when she finally teams up with Xanatos to undo the curse that, you know, helps release Goliath and Bronx and Brooklyn and Hudson and all of them. And during the time in this 1,000 years, she becomes a rich woman who's doing sorcery, all kinds of witchcraft crafts. And honestly, her backstory is really interesting because you could argue that throughout her entire transformation, she becomes more human than Gargoyle, managing to understand capitalism and survives all of that. And ultimately, what we see with Demona is that her desire to survive extinction leads her to very dark, visceral paths in life. And of course, when the gargoyles awaken, Goliath and all of them, they do not align with Demona. They actually want to team up with humanity. And then Elisa comes and she's like, you're too close to my man, sis. You're too close to my man, sis. And she becomes very vindictive and has a personal grudge against Elisa because she's like, that's my man though. I ship Elisa and Goliath because it's healthy, but I do want Demona to be happy because hello, that's my queen. Demona's hatred towards humans is how she has mentally decided is the only way that she can survive, and so it is based on revenge, but she sees it as the only way to protect herself and her race. Greg Wiseman has hinted through interviews that eventually Demona will have some sort of epiphany, learn that she's responsible for her own misery, and undergo some sort of like psychological breakdown because of it. He says, go a little mad, which I'm like, the writer should just be evil to death. The writer should just be evil to death. The thing that has always attracted me to Demona is the fact that I think that she has very genuine reasons to be resentful and angry towards humanity. And like, it's hard to think otherwise. You know, rewatching the first episodes, which give kind of the backstory intro to the Gargoyle Society in Scotland, seeing how the humans treat the gargoyles, it is very hard for me as a black woman to not be on.
Hello? Nando V Movies is doing another collab? On what?
Villains. Nando V Movies has compiled a list of YouTube creators and essayists to not just talk about Marvel, not just talk about X-Men, this time it's to talk about something that unites all our favorite heroes. A villain. This is one villainous scene where we talk about a villainous moment we all vibe with from our favorite movies, and it doesn't even have to be superhero related. But of course, my cape shit loving ass loves superheroes, so I decided to talk about one of my favorite scenes in all of cinema history.
You truly are incorruptible, aren't you?
The Dark Knight is a movie I personally don't talk about enough. Like I mentioned in my Tron video, it influenced me a lot when I was younger, and it still influences me as a creator. And I remember distinctly watching this scene in theaters. I was super young, so it was super intense for me, but because I was so young, it became ingrained in my mind. This is how you write a confrontation between a hero and a villain. This is how you make a villain terrifying. And Heath Ledger's Joker has become one of the most influential Joker adaptations of all time. So, get ready to hear me ramble about a villainous moment I love, and you can do it too. You can create a video and it'll be added to the playlist down below. Just email or tweet at Nando. Now before we get started on The Dark Knight, let's talk about today's sponsor, Petal. Do you want to build credit but don't know how? Petal 2 is here, designed to help you build credit. This card can potentially give millions of Americans access to credit who have previously been overlooked. Yes, even if they've never had a credit score before. Petal 2 helps make it easy to succeed financially. Most credit card companies want you to spend more, pay less, and fork over an annual fee. The Petal 2 Visa card has no annual fee at all, and your cash back grows with you. You'll get 1% cash back right away on eligible purchases and up to 1.5% cash back when you make 12 on-time monthly payments. Their mobile app is also awesome. I use it all the time to track my spending, make on-time payments, and manage subscription spending. Petal 2 is partnered with the WebBank member FDIC, which issues the cards, and as of today, Petal 2 variable APRs range from 12.99% to 26.99% based on creditworthiness. So start building your credit history. Go to the link in the description or go to petalcard.com/brown-table to find out more. If you can't spell, it's Petal with a T. Petal card.com/brown-table. Alright, so let's get started. First off, The Dark Knight is one of the greatest superhero films ever made, and a large part of its success is due to Heath Ledger's Joker. An absolute tour de force, the guy made the character his own, working with the script and Nolan's direction to give us one of the most interesting adaptations of the Joker ever. Someone who wears face paint instead of being dunked in acid. This Joker influenced the games, the animated movies, and it's the Joker a good amount of people compare other Jokers to. And his rivalry with Bale's Batman in this film is what carries it to the end. The film begins with Batman, Jim Gordon, and Harvey Dent's crusade against crime, right? And as the film goes on, Harvey Dent is constantly acknowledged as the better person, the one that's always doing what's right. He doesn't hide in the shadows, he doesn't want to align himself with crooked cops. He believes Batman to be something that Bruce himself can't even see, and he seems to be Gotham's White Knight. But along comes the Joker, an agent of chaos, as he puts it, and not only does he single-handedly play the mob like a fiddle, but he slowly and surely is able to manipulate Harvey Dent into eventually becoming his alter ego. But this is something that goes on behind the scenes. On a grander scale, the Joker wants to make it known to the heroes of the story that Gotham is beyond saving, and that everyone is one bad day away from going mad. His ultimate test on the goodness of others comes in the form of exploding cruises. Not Tom Cruise, cruise like the boat. And literally everything is happening at once. Joker's turned Harvey Dent into Two-Face, and Two-Face has kidnapped Gordon's family. Gordon's unit wants to take down the Joker and his goons in the building Joker's located in. Batman has to prevent Gordon's unit from killing Joker's goons because they're actually hostages, while at the same time having to reach the Joker so he doesn't blow up the cruises. And as this is happening, the people on those cruises are desperately trying to figure out what to do about their detonators. The Joker stated that for a cruise to survive, the other must be destroyed, and taking all those lives is traumatic. No one wants that burden. And this entire sequence is one of the best finales to a superhero film ever. This is a battle between two ideologies, with innocent people caught in the middle. And these innocent people are given faces, they're given dialogue.
Go ahead, do it!
No one wants to blow up the other crews. No one wants to take that many lives. Even this dude who thinks he's hot shit picks up the detonator but just can't pull the trigger. And as the Batman and the Joker face off, Joker's able to pin him down, and we wait. We wait for something to blow up. But it never does. The cruises have run out of time, but both are still intact.
What were you trying to prove? I take down everyone's as ugly as you. You're alone.
Drag his ass, Batman. God, I love this movie. It's literally so good. So Batman gives another comeback, right?
Speaking of which, you know how I got these scars?
No, but I know how you got these.
By the way, that line is so much better than his comeback in The Dark Knight Rises.
So you came back to die with your city?
No, I came back to stop you.
Sounds like Scooby-Doo.
And Batman chucks Joker off the building, man. The Joker laughing as he does it, happy that he's finally broken his rule, his code. But no, Batman actually isn't willing to let his happy ass die, and the Joker finally acknowledges that even though the Joker has killed a multitude of people, caused havoc, put hundreds of lives at risk, Batman will never reach the Joker's extremes. He won't let himself be contorted, manipulated, corrupted.
You truly are incorruptible, aren't you?
And their entire exchange is peak Batman and Joker. If there's any exchange of dialogue in this film that's better than the interrogation room scene, it's this one. Sure, the Joker's been caught, but has he lost? No, he hasn't. And that's what's so absolutely twisted. The cruises were more of a random diversion to his real master plan, one that he's let out free into the world, and that's Harvey Dent.
I took Gotham's White Knight, and I brought him down to our head.
See, the Joker plays the long game. The way he's able to plan ahead is what makes him such a satisfying villain. And again, he's recognized Harvey Dent as the best out of the heroes of the story.
Your stand against organized crime is the first legitimate ray of light in Gotham in decades. If anyone saw this, everything would be undone.
So unbeknownst to Batman, the Joker has turned Dent. He's pulled the strings in order to destroy his life, to murder the woman he loves. And the Joker's convinced Dent that while he may have taken part in Rachel's death, chaos is what he does. He's like a loaded gun, a knife out at the ready. He's convinced Dent that the people responsible are the ones that wield the knife, that pull the trigger.
The mob has plans. The cops have plans.
And the Joker's twisted Harvey Dent into a supervillain that will stop at nothing to exact his version of justice on the people that wronged him. And the Joker knows that this will cause the people of Gotham to lose faith in its heroes. Because if you can't trust the good guys, then who can you trust but yourself? And a divided Gotham, one which inhabits people that only care about themselves, is a broken Gotham. One that will eventually succumb to envy, resentment, and tear itself down from within.
You didn't think I'd risk losing the battle for Gotham's soul in a fistfight with you. Really?
And this is what Joker understands. Gotham that has no savior is again just one bad day away from becoming like him. And he did it. He made Harvey Dent go bad.
See, madness, as you know, is like gravity. All it takes is a little push.
What I'm saying is, yeah, the Joker wins. He, in a way, beat the heroes he created Two-Face. Batman ends up saving Gordon's son from him, but Batman indirectly kills Dent, and there's just no longer a path towards redemption for Harvey. Batman ultimately has to pin all the deaths and everything evil Harvey did on himself. The Joker's final master stroke leads to Batman having to friggin' retire, which is what happens in The Dark Knight Rises. And to me, this is just such an iconic villainous scene. The fact that while the Joker was causing chaos with these fairies, he knew that at the same time, Two-Face was going to be going on a rampage. The fact that even though he lost the battle, he won the war. Whether he expected this or not, Gotham's future will be built on a lie, one that eventually leads Gotham to its momentary ruin. And man, the Joker just laughing as he's being caught because he knows he's won? Brilliant. The Dark Knight remains peak cinema and peak superhero cinema because it's able to strip down the characters to their core and make them wrestle with their desires and their duties.
Then why was it me who was the only one who lost everything? It wasn't.
It makes Batman feel unbearingly human. It's a story about pain and suffering, but also a story about a hero rising to protect his city, no matter what it takes. Its ending, where the Batman has to run from the law, having created a lie to protect Gotham, is just amazing but heartbreaking. And it's all happened because of the Joker. But as the Joker said, the Batman is incorruptible, and that's why it's still a hopeful ending, because we know at the end of the day, the Batman will come out on top. And to me, that's why this is one villainous scene I'll never forget. Thanks so much for watching the video. Make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications to be part of the Chad Nation. Yep, that's what I call my followers, and if you become
It's funny how quickly things can fall apart. One day it seems like you have all the time in the world, and then the next, it's gone.
What was that all about? It's supposed to be an upbeat episode. Alright, check it out. Invincible is another show where a writer asked, what if Superman, but bad? In this case with Robert Kirkman's graphic novel, and now on Amazon in all its over-the-top glory. Like most everyone who watched Invincible, I loved it. It surprised me. The ending of the first episode where Did I say spoilers? Spoilers. I'm gonna spoil every single critical moment of the show, so go away or stay and be spoiled. Anyway, the end of the pilot where Omni-Man is revealed is so dead nuts perfectly crafted. I actually want to talk about a different scene, but this show got me to drop my jaw in its first episode. Every pre-credits scene is a generic superhero story setup. A slight twist from the norm, focusing on a family rather than an individual, but by and large, bad guys attack the White House and extremely cliche heroes show up to save the day. Very minimal blood, violence seems to be toned down even when compared to, like, the Batman cartoon. And then, BAM! Headsplosion! A complete and total tone shift, and most importantly, a betrayal of what we're expecting. The first twist isn't just a narrative twist, it's a genre and visual twist that lets us know what the Guardians of the Globe felt. Well, it is a surprise to me. The point is, outstanding setup for what to expect from the show, the unexpected. And that brings us to this scene. Mark has just learned that his father is a villain, and not just a villain in the, come on, let's rule together, no biggie, it'll be fun kind of way. He's a psychopath who murdered all the other superheroes just so he'd have an easier time taking over. And in a matter of a few minutes, Mark learns that his dad has no concern for human life and arguably doesn't care about life at all. Like, to an insane degree. It had been hinted at when he went to the Flaxen planet, but I think that most of us were holding out hope that this was an isolated incident, or maybe not isolated, but like maybe he was just mad because they beat up Mark.
Earth isn't yours to conquer.
I mean, sure, but as humans, I guess we assume everyone likes us and we're special. Plus, he had a human wife.
She's more like a pet to me.
Right. Point taken. There's no excuse. Nolan comes from the might is right school of thought. Steroids. I find it interesting how absolutely garbage his logic is and how similar it is to, let's say, those that subscribe to the might is right philosophy and how it exposes their garbage logic. Admitting that your partner and mother of your son is no more important to you than a golden doodle because she only lives a fraction of your life and therefore doesn't matter is utter nonsense. And look, I know about the theory of how time works for immortal beings, where years doesn't feel like days, and it does make sense, but no one is immortal, so we'll never know for sure. The most likely outcome is that you go insane. For starters, I wouldn't kill my dog simply because she has a much shorter lifespan than people's hamsters or chameleons or even beta fish die. They're genuinely pretty freaking sad about it. I mean, my 1-month-old is pretty weak and dumb so far, Nolan. Does that mean I shouldn't bother keeping her alive? She's also only lived 1/432nd as long as me, so how could I possibly care about her, right? No way I'd throw myself into a riding pit of white spikes for her, right, Nolan? No, Nolan is using his longevity and strength as an excuse to believe in and perpetuate his massively flawed supremacist outlook. And obviously, sitting in the audience, again as humans, we're not meant to commiserate with the god-beating murder in the city. Although I doubt the similarities between this scene and the finale of Man of Steel are lost on you. Spoilers for Man of Steel, I guess, too. The main difference is the focus. While Batman v Superman attempted to address the massive loss of life that was implied in Man of Steel itself gives us one family and forces Supes to kill Zod to save them. Zod literally forces it. But Invincible is different. This finale, Kirkman didn't just have one pilot die or even one child as the hammer to nail his point home. In fact, I think it's fair to say he didn't use a hammer to nail the point home. He smashed the nail with an excavator bucket, destroying the house in the process. It's a house we're nailing all these points, right? No. Unlike Man of Steel and Invincible, we focus on the death. It's the message Nolan is trying to tough love into his son's mushy head. Nothing matters when you're us. He even goes so far as to try to act like Mark doesn't. It's funny, I remembered this scene differently because I thought it was a big allegory for how terrible tough love can be and how it never works, probably because I'm a dad and choosing anything over my son just does not compute, but it's actually Nolan choosing to beat his son into submission only to learn that he was wrong, that some things and some people do matter, but I'm getting ahead of myself. What I love and also hate about this scene is the seemingly gratuitous escalation of violence. It's stomach turning. I found myself shocked by what I was seeing, which is impressive because it's the second time in the show. It's an escalation from the first time I dropped into it. I had expectations of how far they'd go visually based on that scene, and they were smushed into goo. The gore, the literal guts, it's revolting. And because it's animated, my brain says, maybe this is okay to watch? But I know I'll be thinking about it later. And while the visuals are repulsive, that wasn't what really hit me. It was the casual ending of life that stuck with me. It's not like the show had ever been bashful about killing humans, but I still felt like a line had been drawn in the sand about how far they would go. And then the bodies started dropping, and it was clear that no one was safe. So the intense hyper-violence combined with the trauma Nolan puts his son through, because let's be honest, this subway scene is traumatizing, and I was just watching it from a screen, not living it with my face. It's just so brutal. Like the first scene, it feels beyond anything mainstream we've seen in recent years. I can't turn my eyes away, but I can't truly look at the screen either. It's so next level violent, so heartless that we're stunned. Almost to the point that we forget Omni-Man's point is very, very incredibly stupid. His whole argument sucks. And that's not a critique of the writing. I believe the character is a deliberate critique of that might is right mindset held by supremacists and fascists and hate groups and bullies who never grew up, who never grew out of the need to win every scenario and punish the marginalized in the process. Ultimately, there's a lot more in here concerning imperialism and fascism, and who knows where the show is going with it all, but one thing is for certain. It all comes crumbling down when Mark blindsides his dad with the answer to one question.
What will you have after 500 years?
And that's it. All Nolan's bloviating amounted to nothing. His senseless mass murder was just that, senseless. It changed nothing. Mark may be from another planet, and his blood may be almost pure, but it's the human side of him that unwinds the god. Mark's quiet, simple words paint a picture of the value of human life that a subway tunnel soaked in viscera couldn't cover. So even though this might not look like the face of a hero who won, Omni-Man loses. Well, hello there. If you don't already know, this is a huge collaboration set up by Nano B Movies, much like we've done in the past, this time in celebration of James Gunn's Suicide Squad coming out. And while you'd
I know this must feel very strange, but ordinary is just what you're used to. This may not seem ordinary to you right now, but after a time, this will become ordinary.
Aunt Lydia from The Handmaid's Tale, and this is an awful book cover, so I'm going to use my luscious hardcover version of The Testaments instead. Aunt Lydia from The Handmaid's Tale is not the psychopath that we're comfortable watching like Hannibal Lecter, precisely because we know he's fictional, and you aren't filled with awe when she steps onto the screen like Darth Vader. Aunt Lydia uses very real abusive tactics in a way that gets really hard to watch, especially because we see her and the awful people around us. And you know what? She's even worse in the books. We will be discussing abuse and how it works in this video, both in families and in relationships. If you aren't comfortable with that, that's totally okay, but I recommend not watching this video. This video is part of the this villainous scene playlist, where a bunch of us creators got together to talk about great scenes with great villains. Link below, go watch. The Handmaid's Tale is a dystopian novel based in the Republic of Gilead, a theocratic, patriarchal America in which the few women who can still give birth are made into handmaids, passed around the ruling class and forced to bear their children against their will. Aunt Lydia is the woman at the top of it all who brutalizes them into this role. Listen to just her first line in this scene.
They were dirty women. They were sluts.
Are you? This is a very common tactic that abusers will use to control their victims, children, family, friends, partners. They will make the victim feel special, but not because of any of their own achievements, anything to do with them personally, but because the abuser chose them out of everyone. This can understandably feel gratifying that you're special and chosen, especially to someone with low self-esteem. But it also means that the abuser gets to decide if the victim is living up to their special standard. And if the victim speaks up or deviates from any of that, then the abuser is perfectly positioned to make them feel ungrateful, especially after they were so lucky to have ended up where they are. Now, Aunt Lydia does this over and over throughout the story.
Oh, you are so lucky, so privileged.
Guilt becomes a powerful weapon against the victim. The whole time there's this deeply uncomfortable implication that disobedience is a personal offense to Aunt Lydia, like it's rejecting a gift, and it's assumed that you have to defend yourself against that.
Oh, hey!
Secondly, the scene juxtaposes affection and punishment. Aunt Lydia goes from electrocuting Janine to gently stroking the face of another girl within an instant, with the promise of understanding how they feel. It's whiplash, and it does two things. When a relationship can so quickly turn to violence like that,
you're meant to be providing massages and smelly candles, not
you are
steroids
walking
and
on
carnage.
eggshells. Even when they're being kind, you're always one word away from them.
Texans to what? Come and gobble him up? Is that what you want? Is it?
I just want peace. Peace so I can make this gold mine work. Is that too much to ask?
What?
May I come in? I come in peace.
You've got some nerve.
I come in peace. Now, Agatha, Mr. Chang, I won't lie. I still want to buy the casino, or buy a slice. But my uncle, I think he's lost his reason over this. We've had a serious falling out. You know, I'm leaving the country, quickly. But I think he's sending some bad guys here.
Again?
Oh, no. These are very bad guys. I came to tell you myself, so there's no trace. I mean, do what you want, but believe me, I had nothing to do with it.
What do you make of that?
I don't know.
I'm beginning to feel obsolete.
Hey, we've got a prodigious problem. Come on, up on the roof.
Again! Let's go!
Resist and explode! Boom time, baby! Feel the burn! We got all day. We got all effing day!
is with you. They're already here. Repelling onto the roof. Prodigious ain't the half of it.
Oh my God!
I'll stay here and guard the elevator. You all hear me? This roof deck's for VIPs. Clown? They're already here. Repelling onto the roof. Prodigious ain't the half of it. Housekeeping will not be happy. I'll stay here and guard the elevator. You all clean them up. Cover me. They wanted more, and it looks like we got it. Go clean out the lower deck. Let's go! It looks like these dummies didn't spare any expense. I got you! Watch the balcony!
We got a man down!
I don't know who trained these soldiers, but I wish they had. Keep going around. I'm getting word they are setting up on the other side of the roof.
Draw that weapon! Honey, we got a man down! They hit him! Mendoza's hit! Mendoza's been fucking hit! I'm behind you! Holy! You piece of shit! Reloading! Shot my leg! Shit!
You might have to die for this resort and casino. These facilities are for members only. Up there, the floor above.
it all? What the fuck? Everybody go! Ah! You did it!
We might have to die for this resort and casino. Everyone down! I need you up on the helipad. Use the ladder at the far end to get up there.
Stupid fuckhead!
We're the last line of defense. If we fall, the diamond falls.
No way! Asshole! Fucking bump! What is
formidable, all right. But maybe not formidable enough.
Thank you. Good lord.
Oh, you showed those Texas cocksnots! Oh, you were incredible! Yeah, me too. You know what? We should make an action movie.
We have to end this, or we really will be sitting on a pile of rubble.
I will speak to my uncle.
Yes, whatever we need to do. So sorry about all of this.
I've brought some champagne.
Keep it real. What are you gonna do, sue me for it?
Manage anxiety and depression the easy way by purchasing a penthouse at the Diamond Casino and Resort.
Baker.
Okay, we think Mr. Chang is at an old abandoned motel in Sandy Shores, and hopefully alive, too. It's still not clear if this is a kidnapping or an extended after-party. It's probably a bit of both. But we need him back here at the casino as soon as possible. The Duggins have stepped up their takeover attempt, and we need our owner here to keep things calm, no matter how wired he might be. I don't think the Duggins are behind the kidnapping itself. They're major investors in a private military company, so if they wanted Tao taken, they have plenty of big men with guns to do it. No, these are just regular old meth-dealing bikers, who are not going to like seeing you show up to spoil the fun. Please, just find Tao and bring him back here. Hello? Okay, can I confirm that you found him? And he's still alive? Thank God. Get him back here as soon as you can. We'll prepare a sedative.
罗森州的派对真是苦逼了，这去沙漠乐园从来不乏日子，好玩极了。我们应该是到去拉斯维加斯。别说我们要回家了，我还没玩够。你也是有违违禁，今晚我还要再去剧饭馆排队才过瘾。 快冒汗了！那是什么声音？你有听到吗？有人在敲我脑袋！虫子！我全身爬满虫子！快把！可恶！这是输进一场，我没事，还是一尾活龙。虫子很棒，都是朋友，大家都是朋友，对吗？到了吗？好，时间刚好，我晕到快吐了。
Thank you. Well, we are all really grateful.
这排队没事，一点意思都没有。
陈先生，你打电话给你叔叔。
Well, thank you again. And anyway, I hope this will be the last of it, and we can make the Duggins go away.
I'll be watching. You'll do fine.
So the first thing that I want to talk about with Clarice is how she is dressed. Now, she's still a student in the FBI, and I remember when I first started doing therapy, I also really dressed up. It was a little bit of an overcompensation for the fact that I was lacking most real life skills. I had not done this in the field very often, and so often we will overcompensate to try to look the part when we don't really feel the part. So she has the jacket, she's trying to show authority, but is that really
You need something, huh? One of your rides?
To get in?
Let me know.
Dr. Hemp. So I love the way that Dr. Lecter is standing. He's standing in a very upright position.
I'll get back to it then.
It's a little bit disarming, but his face looks sweet. His voice is very soft. He seems to be wanting to look non-threatening, but it doesn't look comfortable to him either, because he's still standing in a very militaristic way.
Dr. Lecter, my name is Clarice Starling. May I speak with you? Yes. I am, yes.
I love the blink that he does. This wasn't a regular blink. It was a slow, half-closed blink. And I think that that is really telling. When animals do a slow blink, it is often to say, I am non-threatening. I find you so non-threatening and I'm so relaxed that I don't have to blink quickly. I can close my eyes really slowly. And this is very common for birds and for cats. The second thing that it could be is a masking motion. When you are trying to hide how you actually feel by closing your eyes for a moment so you have a moment to yourself. And this happens right after she mentions Jack Crawford. And perhaps Dr. Hannibal Lecter does
Miss
not
Baker is
want to
expecting you.
show
Just
Clarice
go on in.
his true feelings about Jack Crawford.
Ah, good. Thank you for coming. I think I mentioned we have some ownership problems.
Mr. Duggan.
Exactly. The Duggan
Him
family.
asking immediately
They want to buy
for
this
her
place, but first they need
credentials
to
is
destroy
really
it so they can
interesting,
rebrand it,
because
write off all its
Clarice
debts, and get
Starling
it
is
cheap.
there
Then turn it
to
into
find
a
out
tacky
about
dump.
him, to get
I feel
information
awful asking
from
you for your
him.
help,
There's no
but
reason
I obviously
she would
cannot go
through
to the
this if
police, and
not.
we are
And he
trying
knows
to
that.
avoid a trade war
And so
or an
right away
international
he turns
dispute.
the tables
The Changs
and
are
asks,
considered
who
respectable
is she
businessmen.
really?
They're not.
And
The
what
Chinese
are her
government cannot
credentials
stand
to be
them.
able to
I
be
know,
here,
but
which
they pay me to say it.
immediately puts
At the
someone
same
on the
time,
defense. And
Tao
so I think
Cheng,
that
our
this
owner
is the
who we
way
met,
that
has
Dr. Lecter
disappeared.
starts to turn the tables
normally
on
when
Clarice.
Mr.
And we can
Chang
see this
disappears
power
for 3
play
days,
beginning
I think no
between
big
them.
deal.
His way of saying, you're going to check me out,
few
well, I'm
crash
going to
car,
be doing the
and
same thing. to
everything's
you as well.
fine when I write a few checks. But this time, he go out to score Crystal, and he don't come back.
He said something about a contact
And now
in
he
the
starts
desert,
to drop
a meth
in.
dealer he had
He's
met. and
testing
now we
her
think he's been
boundaries and
kidnapped
the
by some bikers
consequences
out
to
near
that.
Sandy Shores.
Can he
really the
get
last thing
her
we
to
need.
do the things
Another
that
scandal.
he feels comfortable with?
Is there
And
any way
you
you
hear
can
that
head out there and have a look for
condescension
him?
in the tone when he says closer the second time, like,
Champagne,
are you
anyone?
actually afraid of me? And let's see how afraid you are. Let's see how far I can push you. It's also interesting to see his look during this scene, where he started off as being really soft and demure. In this moment, while he is testing her, you can see his eyes are starting to darken, and a little bit of his true psychopathy starts to leak outwards.
That expires in 1 week.
Still in training if he can.
Now he's starting to get into her psychology. He's a psychiatrist, and this is the interesting interplay between both of them. Now he's
Okay,
putting on a fear,
we think
failure,
Mr.
and
Chang is at an
imposter
old abandoned motel
What we
in
all
Sandy
have,
Shores,
especially
and
those
hopefully
type A
alive, too.
personalities that are
It's
trying
still
to
not clear if this is
achieve,
a
that want to
kidnapping
do
or an
better, that are
extended after
very
party.
set upon
It's
their
probably a bit of
goals.
both.
All of
But
us
we
have
need
that
him back
little
here at the
voice
casino
inside our
as
head
soon as
saying,
possible.
But am I really
The
up to
Duggans have stepped up their takeover attempt, and we need our owner here to keep things calm, no matter how wired he might be. I don't think the Duggans are behind the kidnapping itself. They're major investors in a private
You can
military
see right
company,
away
so if they wanted
that
Tao
Dr.
taken,
Lecter was
they have plenty of big
insulted.
men with
He
guns
is
to do
this
it.
infamous
No, these are just regular
serial
old
killer and
meth-dealing bikers
cannibal. And Jack
who are
Crawford
not going to
gave
like
him
seeing
so
you
little
show up to
respect,
spoil the
he
fun.
sent a trainee.
Please,
And
just
Clarice
find Tao and bring him back
immediately
here.
noticed that. And so she played this off beautifully by saying, you know what, I'm here to learn from you, to learn from the best, to be your apprentice. So what she's trying to do is to appeal to his ego, that this is not me trying to outwit you, it is me trying to learn from you. But I don't believe that Dr. Lecter really got it. That little means he's not really sure. He's gonna have to test her and see about this. So when he mentions this, of it being slippery, means that he could tell that she was trying to play off his insult as something that should be a compliment. But he's still intrigued enough to offer her to sit down, that he will host her, and her being a honored guest in his presence. And by her accepting that, by accepting his manners and sitting down, they have now made a small agreement between each other. is a very commonly used tool in cognitive behavioral psychology. It's a way of role modeling and reinforcing behavior. Had she not replied to this question, she would have become armored up and put him at a distance. When she's asking him personal or deep questions, why would he want to be vulnerable with her? It is used as a tool to be able to create an alliance between two people. That's the beginning of a relationship. We are both going to partake in things that may be a little bit uncomfortable, but in an honest and straightforward way. And she's doing this in the hopes that this will be received. So now he's becoming intrusive. He's testing her. He's starting to get into her personal psyche by being able to see how far he can take things. And right away you see that Clarice Starling is starting to become uncomfortable with how much he can find out about her by just being perceptive to her scent. And you see how he smiles like that Cheshire cat. He's very pleased with himself. And this is the first time that his head starts to move forward, more predatory instead of that sweet look that he had at the beginning. He's starting to get into who she is as a person. He can tell that he's making her feel uncomfortable, and that power and control that he's starting to have over her, he's enjoying this energy.
That is the Duomo.
Clarice's use of a deflection at this point is brilliant. She's deflected completely the intrusive commentary that Dr. Lecter has given to her about and she's gone to find a hook of something that he is interested in. And that's really important. Good deflection will go to something that someone else cares deeply about, that is about the person they care about the most in the world, which is themselves. And so her showing a care about his personal hobbies and how interesting that is allowed him to actually divert the conversation to something she's much more comfortable in speaking about. This also shows that Dr. Lecter, though he is a brilliant psychiatrist, he's still human. He enjoys the attention that he gets to the things that he cares about.
All that detail is familiar. Perhaps lend us your view. Those questionnaires are wrong.
What a brilliant assessment. That was really, really great, and that's what makes Hannibal Lecter such a wonderful villain. He was so perceptive to everything that she was doing, and he didn't mind it. It was only when she made a mistake, when she disappointed him in her execution of being able to form an alliance together, that he said, you know what, you didn't do this right. Try that. And this is where we see what a brilliant psychiatrist is.
Excites him.
And again, you see that slow blink. He's trying to mask his feelings. But also that proper assessment of the manner in which he touches his trophies allowed him to start well back
How agents, darling, you think you can dissect all of this brain?
So now that he's looked over this, he's insulted. It's a very simplistic questionnaire. And really, questionnaires tell us so little about people. That's why they're used in psychology, because they're easy. But they're not very precise.
If your character has a somewhat casual relationship with reality...
You can't tell me after hearing that this isn't a villainous
really grateful.
Bo's got the evil cackled down. Welcome to the Internet is a standout amongst Bo Burnham's brilliant special Inside.
Well,
Much of Inside is
thank
speaking to
you
how
again.
all of us
And
interact
anyway,
with this new thing we have
I
only
hope this will be the
recently
last of it,
called the
and
Internet.
we can make the
How it
Duggins
changes
go
us,
away.
how we change for it, and most importantly, what it's done to our mental health. Throughout the special, Bo plays many different characters throughout. A white woman, streamer, a social brand consultant, all of whom are using the internet in harmless ways. But here, we get a very different character from all the rest. A character who feels malicious in his intentions. Before I talk about the song and scene directly, I want to talk about the context of where the scene is placed in the special. It precedes All Time Low. All Time Low is a heavy scene about who I'm going to call hurting Bo's mental health, and it's a perfect primer to have us be more open and accepting of the fun, upbeat trap that, who I'll refer to as Bad Bo, has laid for us. These scenes are also stitched together with them pressing a button. To understand what this means, I'll need to give more context for the entire special itself. Bo Burnham was getting ready to come back for stand-up after a 5-year hiatus, only for the 2020 pandemic to shut down those desires. After the lockdowns happened, we were all stuck at home with nothing to do but consume the internet. And that is what I feel has happened to Hurting Bo. Constantly consuming, seeing the horrors of the world right next to the wondrous. The internet was taking a toll on his soul. And the only thing for him to do is accept this reality of life and be overtaken by the villainous Bo. Bad Bo, who I like to see as the gatekeeper and salesman of the internet, won the assimilation fight against Hurting Bo, and now has created this song as his sales pitch and victory anthem. The scene starts innocent and unassuming with a cute piano that reminds us of fun carnivals and circuses.
Welcome to the internet. Have a look around.
Reels us in with the great promises of the internet and a cute joke here and there.
Would you like to see the news or any famous women's feet?
But as we go, it gets progressively more sinister as we peel back the horrors that can be found on the internet, while juxtaposing it with the fun or simple surface level stuff we can do with it.
A boomer or DM a girl and groomer, do a zoomer, find a tumor in your here's a healthy breakfast option. You should kill your mom.
It happens so fast we don't even get time to really process and believe the things he is saying. It passes by so quickly we can just ignore it and move on to the next thing because I saw it on the screen, it doesn't affect me. It's completely on purpose by Bad Bo and indicative of the honest to goodness way so many of us engage with the internet. But then he hits us with the pitch. Could I interest you in everything all of the time? It's a rhetorical question because Bad Bo already knows he can and does. This entire scene brings out as a victory lap for the internet, for our villainous Bad Bo. But then something very interesting happens. Bad Bo slows down and starts singing to us in a comparatively slow manner. He wants us to hear and hold on his every word and gloats right in our faces about his accomplishment. They have been working and waiting to build the internet into what it is now, to indoctrinate young children into this way of life before they can even hold memories, before they can even say no. He then proceeds to paint this as a beautiful thing that we all accomplished together, that this is exactly what we have all always wanted and desired. Maybe. I sure as hell don't know, but it really doesn't matter what I know or feel because Bad Bo starts mocking and laughing at us. Laughs because even when we might start to think about the internet and our place in it, it's too late. He's already won. He won a long time ago. So he brings back his pitch, but it's taken on a whole new air of even the slow-moving chords, the deeper intonation. He no longer has to hide his intentions. The tempo picks up, more voices harmonize with Bad Bo. We hear more laughing in the background. We're realizing that he is more than just one guy, and he sings all of this with a giant grin on his face. He was able to show us exactly what the internet truly is. We all shook our heads, and he did the rest. I would love to end on that pretentious line, but I want to talk about the technical aspects about what makes this such a great villainous scene, starting with the set design. When we open, we all see these green lights dotted around the room like stars, like the universe. It's a reminder of the ever-growing expanse of the internet. It also elevates Bad Bo to look like a god dispelling wisdom from among the stars, and this god does
Oh my god, it's that time again. So around this time last summer, I happened across the One Excellent Scene video challenge, in which bigger YouTube movie channels such as Nando V Movies opened up an invitation for people to post videos.
So, like I've said earlier, with Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, the whole theme of the movie is family, choosing your family, realizing more about them and your path that is chosen for you.
Okay, well, here we go again. About 2 years ago, a YouTuber by the name of Nando V Movies, for some strange reason, made a video calling on all YouTubers to take one scene from the Marvel Cinematic Universe and make a video saying why they liked it. Simple enough, right? Well, the amount of people who joined was tremendous, with a playlist having a total of 183 videos in it, and that is a lot of videos. And the next year he asked again for another selection of YouTubers to go nuts making videos, this time about the X-Men. And guess who rose to the occasion on that one? So I'm back for this again, and this time to commemorate the release of the new Suicide Squad, which, by the way, is an absolutely incredible film, maybe my favourite DC film, and just an overall fun movie. He's landed on the topic of one villainous scene. So, who have I chosen to make my video on? Well, if you have a look at my channel, the answer becomes fairly obvious. Yep, originally I had my eye on a slightly more powerful villain who I'd thought of making a video on before, but if we're talking about one scene alone and not throughout the entirety of the movie, then, well, my mind was made up. It had to be a Tarantino villain. So I wondered, who was going to be... Okay, fuck it, you know who the video's about.
Ooh, that's a bingo.
So, Hans Landa, a downright evil fella played expertly by Mr. Christoph Waltz in Tarantino's sixth film, Inglourious Bastards. Now, I'm not here to talk about the movies, but I'll say this, it's a good fucking movie. And if you like fun movies, then you'll certainly enjoy this one. Anyways, moving on to the actual video. What's the scene in question, you ask? Well, the culture among you will have already guessed that one. And it's usually the scene that makes or breaks the antagonist, the introduction, or in this movie's case, the opening scene. So let's go full Vanity Fair, shall we, and do one of those deep dive analysis things, and I'll show you why Hans Landa is a villainous son of a bitch. The scene opens 1941, already setting the context for the scene, with a man chopping a wooden stump, and hey, they even use the same music as I did. Look at that. But it doesn't last for that long and it just fades out, being replaced by an engine from a distance. And at this moment in time, we are that character. We think we hear something, we acknowledge it, and then good shit. From the very first time we see what we can't even make out as Hans Landa, we already know from context and music that this guy is big, intense, he's the fucking Chad at the gym. This guy is the villain. And Bradley Pitts is gonna headbutt in the face later on in the movie. And the music doesn't stop, it builds. And the music itself makes the scene feel like a western, with the rattles and the visuals as well. They reinforce this fact to a million, with the way that the actor's framed and the way that he acts in the scene, like a western sheriff getting ready for his duel, as the contender rolls into town on his big fucking horse, or in this case, his little German automobile. And now we get to the talking stuff. The scene starts fairly calm and relaxed, well, as calm as a conversation between these two people can be, but there's always something about it. Small things that give you a feeling of unease, like how he straight up just grabs her wrist when asking for milk, because for some reason all villains just like milk.
Merci.
See what I mean about uncomfortable? It just holds on him, just drinking milk. Milk, fucking milk! And it works. Moving on, we are now introduced to why he's here. This is two things. For one, it tells the viewer if they hadn't already figured it out. I mean, it's not really that much of a mystery, but who this guy is. And second, it gets the audience member to think about why he's here, why he's in this house with these people. And, well, oh boy, we do. We'll get to that. The following parts of the scene go fairly normally, establishing the Jewish family who are on the run. Now, given the situation, the viewer's mind goes to the darkest way the situation could go. whilst internally begging for it not to go the way that we fear it might. Until...
Not really sure.
Well, I guess that should be.
Yeah, it's going to go exactly the way we feared. And well, what happens next? If you haven't watched the scene, well, you can just use your imagination. Or continue to watch the video because that's exactly what I'm going to show. The way Hans lightly suggests he's proposing to him, like he's offering him a cigarette or, in reference to the scene, a glass of milk, is so starkly contrasted with the fearful, cold way in which he actually means it. The way he says this is just like a teacher looking down on a student misbehaving in class. And here is a point where we realise what the uneasiness of the scene actually was. We now fully understand what the characters have known since they stepped foot in the house. That this isn't a conversation or a checkup, this is an interrogation. And this face just says it all. The fear, the conflict, his Hans just stares at him like the soulless bastard he is and just keeps on driving a knife deeper with a big question. Because he knows how much pain the other Nazis have caused this man, and Hans saying that he'll finally be left alone if he complies just bases his decision in concrete. He has him on the fucking ropes, and he knows it the entire time. And then, like the beginning, the music fades in. The nightmare scenario that we feared is being played out right in front of our eyes. And well, you know what happens next.
Your key card should get you through any level 1 security doors. Anything higher than that, you'll have to hack.
Good fucking scene. And what makes this better, or worse, I don't know how you look at it, is you don't ever find out if he keeps his promise. It's left entirely to the imagination. It's left completely, unutterly ambiguous. And the way he cruises his way through the situation like it's his 50th time doing it, probably because it is his 50th time doing it. And his reaction at the very end of the scene just says it all. He lets it go, putting not all but most of the rest of the events of the movie into play. And well, why? Well, not because he has to, not because it's his job, but because he wants to. It's just sport to him. He's doing it because he enjoys it. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is what makes Hans Landa a truly terrifying villain in this one villainous scene.
In true Quentinese, or Quentinese, I would say, that's a bad move.
Okay, so that is the video done and dusted. If you enjoyed the video, please like, subscribe, all of that stuff. This is not my traditional video, this is kind of different to some of my other videos, but not like starkly different. It's kind of, it's similar but it's different, if you get what I mean. I don't know, but if you made this final video, thank you so much, and thank you for watching. And
the stun gun should disable the camera for a while. Or go old school and time your
So the theme for this year's annual film YouTube event is One Villainous Scene, where you have to talk about any villain that interests you. So I thought I'd use the opportunity to direct you all to a movie that I think is really criminally underrated, Upgrade. It was released in 2018 and it didn't get much attention because it was really overshadowed by Venom, which this movie beats in almost every way if you ask me. It gets a lot of stuff right, and I recommend you check out my review of it if you're interested, but the part of the movie I want to focus on specifically today is the final battle. In Upgrade, STEM is the chip and AI that gives our main character, Gray Trace, superhuman abilities and helps him on his quest to avenge his wife. Gray is our main character, but he doesn't actually have a proper arc in the film. In fact, he goes through a regression, which I wouldn't normally like, but it serves STEM's arc really well. When we first meet STEM, we see him as a helpful AI who needs a bit of guidance from Gray, but as the movie goes on, he reveals his true colours more and more. I really like this approach because it subtly hints to the audience that Gray isn't in charge, STEM is, and this all culminates in the final battle.